Okay, you guys, this is from Reddit. I escaped Scientology AMA. It's only been about a year, but it's time for me to speak out. I joined Scientology 5 years ago after seeing the truth to what Scientology is about, after being a public and a staff member, I no longer want to keep my mouth shut. Obviously, I want to keep my identity a secret, so Office of Special Affairs can't track me down. But I want to spread light on this matter. Pale Conference says, thoughts on the Leah Remini lawsuit. Absolutely incredible. It's going to be a bloodbath, but she's doing something that not a lot of people can do. And hopefully, when she does win, Scientology will be brought to justice and everyone's constitutional human rights have been restored. We can hope. K. Midget said, a year or two before you joined, there was a huge influx of Scientology documentaries and exposés in what was seemingly terrible PR for the church. It seemed like the entire country was watching them. Were those something you were just never exposed to, given you joined after the massive public outcry? Jen? Or on the flip side, did the increased publicity instead drive you to Scientology out of curiosity? Ex-Scientologist responds, good question. I watched a small little glimpse of Leah Remini's Netflix show and a bit of Aaron Levin's YouTube channel, growing up in Scientology. Being the good Scientologist I was, it went through one ear out the other, but something happened to me that I won't disclose yet for the sake of confidentiality. It was at this moment that the stuff I've heard and the stuff that happened to me began to connect. Their mind control is strong. Ex-Scientologist states, before I joined, I've never seen any of the black PR, as Scientology calls it. It was only when I was in the church I heard about it. I'd often get interrogated by the ethics officer for bringing it up. Don't you guys wonder how many ethics officers are standing outside the blue building? I do. K. Midget said, that makes sense. What was your level of familiarity with Scientology when you joined then? Probably the one thing most people outside of it are familiar with is the xenomyth. I'm aware Scientology doesn't love advertising, but that's a part of the religion. Was that something you knew of when you began? I doubt it. How do they handle questions from prospective members about it without turning them away, if that was ever something you witnessed? Also, thank you so much for answering and doing this AMA. It's my pleasure. I'm here to spread the truth and nothing but the truth. I had no idea what Scientology was about, to be honest. That's the way they like it. The way the church handles these questions is by going through a procedure in the policy, how to handle black propaganda. How to handle black propaganda. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but it's a series of steps that involves finding the source of the black PR, replacing it with facts, and destroying the source with heavy facts. I think that's what we've seen Heber Jensch do, Mike Rinder, Tommy Davis. I mean, that's what they're trying to do. They believe it's facts. If someone is a Scientologist and has gone through a decent amount of service, or even a staff member, and this is originated, they will go through something called an ethics interview. It is a process where a person is put on an e-meter, basically being interrogated. Once this is done, the person will likely have to go through Scientology's lower conditions, and depending on the severity of the action, further Scientology justice actions will occur. Complete insanity and brainwashing. Yep. Who do you guys think creates these programs? K Midget. Also, as someone who also got out of brainwashing cult, not Scientology, I totally understand talking about it, being beneficial, and I hope you're in a better place now. We had a couple of docs done on us. Nothing to the extent of the Scientology's black PR, but more like a few episodes on 60 Minutes style shows. And we're always told not to believe them, because they were works of Satan. We shouldn't even watch them because it would put us at risk of spiritual attacks if we weren't strong enough. That's the fear. Different explanations than what you went through, but very similar tactics, it seems like. Oh, wow. Didn't know you were in a cult. We should connect. Oh, sorry, maybe I wasn't clear. I was in a brainwashing cult, but it wasn't Scientology. We were Christian. I got that. Read too fast. Lots of laughs. Whimsy Boom. Whimsy Boone. Are any documentaries more true than others? Haven't watched a lot, to be honest, but I recommend looking up Growing in Scientology on YouTube. You guys wonder why Aaron gets targeted so much? Whimsy Bun, thank you for responding and coming online to answer our questions. I hope your path onward is safe and smooth. Bill Bixby, aka Hulk. 25 years ago, I had a friend who was born and raised in Scientology. Got to clear. Leaving had a lot of after effects. He got manipulated into a marriage by an abusive woman and cut off all contact with friends. It's like he was looking for a new, better cult to follow, and she provided the answers and support he was craving. Do you feel like you have to start over? Absolutely. Starting over is the easy part. Escaping is the hard part. Not only do you have to escape physically, but psychologically you have to as well. For me, leaving psychologically was harder. Bill Bixby says, can you give an example? Like, do you feel a pull to go back because of people you knew? Do you feel out of place among non-Scientologists? Not at all. It's just that all my business connections in life revolved around Scientology. They all do this, you guys. Every piece of techniques I used for the real world was all Scientology. Imagine knowing your parents for 30 plus years, regular people working normal jobs, but the whole world is out to get them. Cracks in the dam start to break, and you soon realize that your parents are actually the ones that were evil this whole time, and that you were on the wrong side of history. A great movie I could give an example would be The Truman Show. Bill says, that is very interesting. For years, my friend went to ex-Scientology forums, and when he described his problems of everyday life, he would still converse with other ex-Scientologists or people considering leaving in varying amounts of Scientology terms. I don't think that's good, you guys. I think it hinders people. No shade to anyone, but like suppressive persons in his life, disconnects, etc. Losing everything in Scientology is actually a breath of fresh air because now I can finally live again. How did you get turned on to Scientology? And how long did it take for you to get out once you realized it wasn't what it was hyped up to be? I went undercover for a couple of months, gathering intel. I then got calls and texts from 5+ Sea Org members from middle management, asking if I had a sec to chat. I knew my cover was blown, so I scrapped every trace of myself, withdrew all of my cash, drove off to other states. Once I knew I was compromised, I left after about 15 hours. See how serious it is? I think for some people you can just walk out. Like Tori talks about that a lot. But I don't think it's as simple as that. It depends on the person. Scientology doesn't have any problem discarding runaway children, that's for sure. So you were never a believer, you were undercover, and that was from Pants67. I want to just add in here, and we all know what goes on Reddit. I often wonder how many of these people are Scientology ops. I'm not accusing anyone of anything, but they want to know how he escaped, etc. They could be innocent, but they could be Scientology ops. Sounds like a Scientologist asking, oh, wow. Snake's Factory said, oh, here we go. Pan says, that's true. I'm a Scientologist. Well, at least they were honest. Ex-Scientologist. I was a believer till something happened that made me question everything. I'll be going public with this soon. And we'll go further in depth. Pants 6789. What initially got you interested in Scientology? You see, you guys? And not all Scientologists are bad. I don't know like where they're standing. You know? But the questions they ask, you know what I mean? Oh, here we go again with this. If I never hear it again, I'll be happy. Eld Forever. Do insiders ever talk about David M's wife? You know, because she's the only person in Scientology, right? I want to know, where are the children in Scientology? Don't you guys? Or the claims of his niece in her book. What about Zeno? What about Zeno? Ex-Scientologist. Oh, hell no. If an insider brings up Shelley or Zeno, they immediately get sent to ethics or for handling. I'm thinking RPF. See, that's how it all works, you guys. You're not allowed to ask questions. Just like the last 6 years throughout the world, right? It's information control. Any and all black propaganda anyone originates will thoroughly be handled using a policy letter written by LRH titled, How to Handle Black Propaganda. Wouldn't that be great to read, you guys? Does anybody know if... I know a lot of people read Scientology policies, but those are not copyrighted, are they? I don't think so. That'd be really good to read. Eld Forever. Interesting, not surprising, but also it's hard to imagine being in that position. If I was in Scientology with my best friend, or with my brother, it would be so strange to feel unsafe to even say to them anything like, do you think Shelley is still alive? Or, Zeno sounds like BS, and that makes me question Scientology. How about you? Do you think even siblings and best friends would report those comments? Absolutely. It's called writing a KR. Blue Pass says, can you be specific? Cute McBooty. How accurate was the South Park episode on Scientology? So I guess nobody answered that particular about the siblings and best friends. Very accurate, except for the part about Thetan levels. Scientology doesn't have anything to do with that. They probably, I got to go watch South Park. I've watched a little bit, but I think they probably just mislabeled things. Perhaps. Thetan levels are OT levels. Operating Thetan. Icaro 9 Deed. What do you mean? Isn't OT 1 through 9 the operating Thetan level? See? I mean, sometimes people don't know. So not everyone's just trying to throw people off. And then someone put the Wikipedia in there. The Halo said, best question. Pants, who's actually still a Scientologist. I picture Scientology as 90% white people. Is that accurate in your experience? And now, if this person is a real person, I don't know. It seems like the picture is like an African American or maybe Latino. Pretty much depends on where you are, to be honest. And LRH was a racist, by the way. It's all over the internet. Deleted. How can they represent a physical threat to you? This is America. Why not get pepper spray a G and a license to CARRY? I'll bet somebody reported him for saying that. Which I would have to say I agree with that statement. Ex-Scientologist, in Scientology, there's a policy known as fair game, meaning that anyone that is a threat to Scientology is subject to destruction. The cult is evil and are doing things that cross legal boundaries, as well as constitutional human rights. P.S. I do have a concealed, you know what? Boom. Good. Don't hesitate to use it. Legally, of course. Against these tyrants. I remember watching a YouTube video where these people were filming, and outside of the ST building in New York City, and some ST, Weasel, said they couldn't film and tried to threaten them. This is New York City. I'm waiting for this one. But they caved in and stopped. I think they count on people being meek and not knowing their own power. I agree with that. I remember watching an old video. I don't remember the name of the Scientologist. I do know Jesse Prince has a very interesting story. But I'm not talking about Jesse Prince here. It was another ex-Scientologist that had gotten out, and he was a little bit higher level. Not like really high on the executive scale, but he was, he knew stuff. And he was living with his wife and family out in a more rural area, somewhere in the Southwest. And they had the audacity to come out to his ranch or country home, being very threatening. And let's just say, you guys can deduce what I'm saying. Let's just say things happened to warn off people. And one of the Scientologists wet his pants. In fact, I think, if I remember correctly, which I mean, it's understandable. If I remember correctly, the guy telling the story, which I felt that was brave that he did that. He said that's when he himself started waking up. Funny how when your life flashes, before your eyes. Ex-Scientologist says people need to know their rights. Facts. Yes, they do. Glad you're exercising them. Be safe, but never fear. Pencil pushing. I've never really understood what Scientology is about. What are their beliefs? Why do people join? I don't know. This could be a sus post, but maybe not. I mean, considering we have Google, but maybe it's an honest question. I don't know. Ex-Scientologist responds, Scientology is short for knowing how to know. That sounds like double talk, doesn't it? People join because in the beginning it provides people with practical skills to better navigate life, some of it being sort of useful. Once you're sucked into it more and more, you're obligated. There's the fog. You see, you've got the fear, the obligation, and guilt. You're obligated to go up the bridge, which means paying for more auditing. It's also moving the goalpost. I know people that have spent over $100,000 to go to clear, and someone got like 3 mortgages on their home, wiped out their whole savings, and is now OT8 and is a pizza driver. Wow. That's so sad. But I do wonder how many of them are getting audited by children, so I got a problem with that. Damn, sounds like a glorified pyramid scheme. That's what I think. Reminds me of those old pyramid schemes back in the 80s. A few of them I almost got involved in. There was one back in the 80s me and my ex-husband were going to get involved in. Before we had cell phones, before we had all this stuff. And it was to provide people with free long distance. I forget the name of it, but it went out of business. I think that was a scam. Damn, sounds like a glorified pyramid scheme cult. Is there anything religious about it at all? As in a spiritual belief or anything? Or basically just a way to navigate life for a successful career, but in the end extorting you for all your money? Pretty much. So I think that's kind of weird. Nobody answered him. Then Albie Turi says, tell me something you've learned there. That super sounds like a Scientologist. Super sounds like a Scientologist. Ex-Scientologist says, no matter how close you are with anyone, if you're in a cult, they will turn on you. Facts. You know where else that happens, you guys? At a narcissistic workplace. Been there, done that. Taco. Oh, does that sound yummy? A taco crock. Kind of like all life. Trust no one, pretty much. That's kind of where I'm at right now. Maybe I get a little better about trusting someone one day. I'm trying. Albie Turi says, that's a sad story. I hope you get some relationships and maybe fix some Scientology. Fix some of what Scientology is broken. If I think somebody's asking just stupid questions, or maybe they're a troll, I'm not even going to read it. So this guy, I'm just guessing he's a guy. He met Cruz, I mean, of course, you know, freaking poster child, and Grant Cardone. I feel like that's kind of distraction, but maybe intentional, maybe not, I don't know. It reminds me of distraction, just like David Miscavige, get him. I mean, like, who in their right mind would even believe people saying that stuff? Not all of you guys that were abusing children, please. Okay, Miura says, were you employed in film or television series? Ex-Scientologist says, I wasn't a class 5 staff member, basically meaning I was a civilian volunteering at my local church. I was director of registration, which is basically a sales manager in the real world. How did those positions generate money? My job, since I was a single manning and there weren't many staff, like kids, would be to call a list of people we've collected from people that have previously purchased something from Scientology, known as Central Files. That's where they call you for the rest of your life. In the real world, this would be called a customer relationship management. They would be called, scheduled for an interview, and depending where a person is at service-wise, it would be my job to get them on their next step and hard sell them. My department's job was solely responsible for the organization's gross income. Since Scientology is falling apart, and it's easier now more than ever to know what really goes behind the scenes, not a lot of people were coming in. Sucks to be them. Miura says, have you ever felt Scientology has threatened your safety? I've gone through great lengths to cut off any digital footprint I have and use cash for the next couple months. If they're planning on threatening me, they won't find me. Miura says, are there any aspects of Scientology that you think you'll miss being part of? This is kind of screaming Scientology again. I mean, it could be worse, you guys. No offense, but we could be them stuck in this, I don't mean that to be mean. Ex-Scientologists, my personal connections. When I left Scientology, it was only a matter of time. I'd be labeled as a suppressive person, basically being excommunicated. I lost all my friends, business connections in the name of religion. Taco Truck says, on a positive note, at least it's easier to hide. I hope you have enough resources to stay hidden and drop off their radar completely. Me too. Where there's a will, there's always a way. Tapatio Tundra. If I purchase a book, but put the email and phone number of someone I don't like, would that person be able to find out the card used or money sent? This is a weird question to me, you guys. Also, it is pretty much guaranteed they would be harassed for a while. I don't know if this person is a Scientologist. Well, one, don't do that, even if you don't like someone. It's not cool. And I just find it weird. Would that person be able to find out the card used or money sent? I'm wondering if that's a Scientologist asking. I don't know. In Scientology, they have something called a reach system. If you were to buy something online, your local Scientology church would see the IP address of where the book was purchased and on what device. Best to not leave a trace. Exactly. I don't recommend subjecting anyone into Scientology. See, that's where I'm at too. Thanks for answering. Not meant maliciously, really. Appreciate the answer. No, that's malicious. You might not know it's malicious, but that's malicious. I'm glad Scientology is falling apart, and the internet and everything else is helping people realize how terrible it is. I wonder if it will ever go away. Probably, like most religions, there will always be diehard followers, until they croak. Sorry, I know I'm kind of mean, you guys. I don't mean to be mean. The reason I say that, it's like, I just feel like it's so diabolical and malicious. That's why I say that. I'm not trying to be cruel. Would you compare Scientology to the People's Temple run by Jim Jones? I've never heard of that. Enlighten me. A lot of people compare that. I don't know. Mushy Turnip. A cult leader who built a town in Guyana for his followers and ended up committing mass blank with poison. Only a few survived. Few kids did. But hundreds didn't. A lot of people were forced to drink it, including children. Moloch. If someone tried to affect their family would never talk to them again. He even K'd a journalist, a politician who went there to investigate, and 3 defectors. Deleted is deleted. I have no idea who Jeremy Perkins is. Do you know where in the Sea Org he was stationed and what his post was? Yeah, that's another one that K'd himself. It's so sad, you guys. Or no, he didn't. Oh, yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. There's a lot of really good documentaries on what happened there. It's pretty awful. And David Miscavige's sister, I forgot her name right now, but his sister was trying to get Jeremy Perkins into Narconon. I know that much. A sign de risque. Kind of late to the party, but I met him several times in high school. He dated 2 of my friends, and when I met him, he tried to talk to me about Scientology. Crazy. Q boy. Maybe a weird question. This is getting long. On some replies, you describe Scientology like a well-oiled machine where the management is quite well aware of each member's activity. Exactly. And there is a procedure for every occurrence, but in some others, you say the organization is falling apart. Could you explain to me more about these 2 points? Also, could you tell us some case you witnessed where you noticed petty behavior of specific people inside the cult, like people abusing the rules for their own sake? Oh, that happens all the time. Lazy people, corruption inside the cult, etc. I'm comparing Scientology to a corporation or a government, and I want to understand how much the fact that it is a cult can change the standard issues big organizations have always had to face. As a side note, speaking out like this is very much therapeutic for me. By the way, I forgot to tell you guys, this post was only posted 10 months ago. Good on you for speaking out, OP. Thanks, I'm all about the truth. Just glad to finally be on the right side of history. Okay, you guys, this is getting really long, so I'm going to stop it there. I will leave a link in the description box. Like and subscribe if you choose. Otherwise, have an amazing day or night wherever you are. Peace.